And I'm so bad at doing this kind of thing, but I'll do it anyway. There's a few people that were asking about this particular bass, how it sounded, because I showed it in a previous video, but I didn't play it that time. Although I do have a bunch of shorts that I've been uploading, so I do like a daily uploads. It's kind of, the concept is like 60-second concerts or whatever you want to call it. I'll play like solos or solo pieces, covers, whatever. But anyway, so this is a neck-through. It's a 5-piece neck-through. In the middle we have a purple heart. Then we have zebra wood. And then we have walnut on the sides. Now, I remember seeing basses like John Patitucci's bass or whatever. I used to get a Bass Player magazine, and they'd have a really cool picture of the bass, but you could never see like some of the details. And there was no internet back in the 90s, or well, at least in the early 90s, we didn't have that kind of access. So anyway, I would always wonder about certain things, like how the neck was shaped, and you know what the back of the bass looked like, and the thickness and all that. So going back to this particular bass, oh, by the way, that's the reason I'm doing this video, so you guys could see how, you know, the principles behind the construction of this instrument. This is the first prototype, and I was going for like an Anthony Jackson kind of thing, where it's like super thick, right? So that was the idea behind the thickness of this bass. So it has an extra purple heart back. So going back to this, we got the neck through, 5-piece. Right in here, there's a I guess a core tone block, some people call it. It's made out of Brazilian ironwood. It's really dark in there. I don't know if you can see it. I got really bad lighting here, but let's see. You can kind of see that. That in the middle is Brazilian ironwood. Okay. Then you have a top, or this back here is yellow canary from Brazil as well, which is like really oily, really cool to the touch. Then we have we have ebony stringers, and then purple heart. This is a winged top or back plate, whatever. And I was gonna use magnets. I usually use magnets, but they wear out. They're kind of a pain, so I'd rather just do screws. But if people want magnets, I don't have a problem doing that. Then you have this, what is it? African mahogany core, right? And that's on both sides. So that's the treble side. And then if I flip it, I get same thing. That core of the African mahogany. Then we go to the front. I want to come back to the back in a second, but because I want to show the back of the headstock. But while we're at it, we'll talk about the front. So this is old growth redwood, and the thing about this particular piece, the flame on it. I mean, this flame is really rare for this particular species. I'm sure there's going to be people out there saying, yeah, well, I know a luthier that has 400 of these pieces, and that's cool. But I can only get my hands on one piece. So this is the only piece I could get. And in fact, it had a fracture here. And I don't think anybody else would have used it for a top, but I just thought it was too beautiful and too rare to pass on it. And it doesn't, it doesn't look like a crack or anything. It was like the grain of the wood, the counter grain, and it had a little bit of an opening, so I grain sealed it. But if I had sanded all the way down, like thinning out the top, I would have probably gotten rid of that. It wouldn't have, because it wasn't going all the way through. But anyway, I couldn't just scrap it. It would have broken my heart if I did. Anyway, we got a bartolini pickup here. It's like a Music Man style with 3 screws. And then underneath this, what they call this thing a ramp. I don't know why they call it a ramp, but there's another pickup. It's also a humbucker. It's the same thing as this, just by a different manufacturer. It's like a Chinese replica. It actually sounds really good. I dropped it in there because I was originally, this pickup was right around here, and I had a ramp in the front. I don't know if I have pictures of that, but I wasn't getting that low end that I needed. It was too I wouldn't say thin, but it was just missing that low end. And again, I'll show audio samples of this in a second. So I moved the pickup forward so that I could get more low end, and I put another pickup underneath this ramp, and then I installed this ramp. This is the same as the fingerboard. It's actually from the same tree, same thing. And this would be flame maple. You can kind of see the flame on the, let's see, on the reflection there, right? And the fingerboard is also flame maple. The only thing that I stained from this whole instrument was the fingerboard and the ramp. Everything else natural color. This is natural. Obviously the Purple Heart is the same. They're all natural colors. So yeah, there we go. We got a nice flame. I think the red makes it pop a little bit more. What else? Oh yeah, it's a matching headstock. I still need to put the logo on there. It's some brass knuckles and a B. So, right? Bone, like actual bone, and ebony. See, it's a 2-piece nut. Bone and ebony. And a cool thing about this, I don't know if I can show it, but see those grooves in there in between? It's scalloped. Just something I do every now and then. There was a repair guy here in West Texas that I used to go to when I was a kid, and he would always do that. And I thought it was like the coolest thing, you know. And then years later, when I started building guitars, somebody, he had just recently retired, and then somebody told him that I was making guitars, and yeah, he got in touch with me. It was really cool moment. What else? It's got, I don't know if you could see. Oh, let's talk about this now. Here's the really interesting thing, and this is where some people might disagree with me and whatever. I run two guitar companies, and they're really small. They're just a one-man operation. Sometimes I'm able to hire people and they work with me. But it's a very small company. The first one being Exotica guitars, and I wish I had an Exotica guitar with me to show. And most of our models are headless. I make 7 and 8 string guitars mainly, and I think like 90% of them are headless. So that's Exotica guitars. Why Exotica? I don't know. Metallica, Pantera, Sepultura, Exotica. That's the reason why. This is another company that I run. This is like the more high end. This one's called Bekje Guitars, and it's the spelling is Bekje. That was I changed my last name to that. That was one of my ancestors' last name. So I don't want to get into that right now, but yeah. So it's gonna have the brass knuckles, and then part of the logo there in the front, right? And I was gonna, like I said, I was talking about the 2 guitar companies. I got distracted. I'm so bad at doing these kinds of things, but I got distracted there with the names. With both of my guitar companies, I build every single guitar is a custom order, in the sense that the neck is made to the size of your hand. I have really weird shaped hands. This is really large, but my fingers are super short, especially if you look at it on the other side, like really short fingers. And I think this happened because I started playing really young, and I was grabbing the neck a certain way, and just the length of my fingers just stopped growing. That's what I think happened. I don't know, because I'm the only one in my entire family that has these kinds of hands. Everybody has them pretty normal. Anyway, so I build every single guitar to the size of your hand. The way this works is we trace your hand, and there's we have a certain method of doing that. And if you're not here locally, most people that I sell instruments to are they're in the U.S., but they're not in Texas. So they send me a profile of their hand, and then I start carving the back of the neck to the size of their hand. This becomes like a people might not agree with me, and that's okay. You can always go get a Gibson. You can always go get a Fender, and that's great. But the reason I started building instruments was because I could not find one that would suit my needs 100%. And I played Foderas, I played high-end Warwicks. I actually bought a Warwick bass from a guy that used to play bass with Alice Cooper back in the day, and it was an early it was like an 80s thumb 4-string. I've played every bass you can think of. Spectres, which I really like, but none of these basses were exactly. I found myself always trying to learn the instrument rather than me teaching the instrument what to play. Me telling the instrument, okay, this is what we need to play. Now it was, always trying to, like I need to put my thumb this way, or my index has to go this way because the back of the neck is shaped different than my previous bass, whatever. So we don't build basses unless I profiled your hand. And it's an expensive process, and the reason for this is, like, let's say that I'm in West Texas, but if you're in LA, what I do is you send me the profile, I look at the neck and all the specs. I do a prelim carve, so I'll carve it, I'll get it carved out, and then I'll ship it to you, which costs like $45 with insurance or whatever. And then you test it. You hold it in your hand and you tell me, and then we'll have like a FaceTime call or whatever, and then you tell me, you know what, it'd be nice if you could shape this a little bit more round, or cut back on whatever, shave this, whatever adjustment needs to be done. We take notes, and then you ship the neck back to me, and then I do the finalizing. I do the final carving, and then I put the guitar together, and hopefully you get it in your hand soon enough. Every luthier I know is backed up. I don't know a single guy that's not backed up. I'm so backed up. I don't even want to get into that one right now, but anyway, every single neck we make is to fit. If you were going to a wedding, you wouldn't go to Walmart to buy a one-size-fits-all suit, would you? No, you'd get something that's fitted to your shape, and that's how guitar should be. There's no reason why we should always all be playing the same profile neck. And then this nonsense about C shapes and hard V's and all kinds. There's dozens of shapes. So here's the interesting thing. What I started developing, and this is not my idea. I used to play an instrument called the Chapman stick. And for those of you who've never heard of it, look up King Crimson. Tony Levin plays. It's like literally a stick with 10 or 12 strings, and you tap it, and you play it upright, and you just tap it, and it's one of the most beautiful sounds I've ever heard. So I had one in the 90s, and I was interested in building guitars already, and I was like super naive. I was a kid, and I called Stick Enterprises, and I don't remember what her name was, but the owner's lady answered, and I'm like, you know what? I got a few questions about the neck and why they designed it like that. And she's like, oh, yeah, well, I can't answer those, but I'll have Emmett Chapman call you. I'm like, all right, whatever. I didn't think he would return my call. 2 hours later, the phone rings. And I spent like 3.5 hours on the phone with Emmett Chapman. And it just completely changed my mind. The way, he was originally a jazz guitar player, and he's like, I'm missing out on holding a pick when I can just use, all these 8 fingers to tap. At least you can use your thumbs as well, but yeah, he had all these ideas really, really ahead of his time. And the back of the neck on that Chapman stick is completely flat. It's square. There's a little bit of an angle, I guess you could call it a bevel, but it's completely square in the back. And I always thought, man, when I play my stick or my Chapman stick, I can do all these things that I can't do when I play my Warwick, or when I play my Fodera, or when I played, some of the 6 strings that I had. So then when I got to building the very first guitar that I built, I said, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it a square neck. And I've been doing that ever since. And I've turned a bunch of guys into this. There's really no reason why a neck should be round in the back. Now I haven't found any disadvantages to this, but there are certain advantages. A few that I can mention right off the bat. First of all, neck stability. I put these instruments through the ringer, and the neck never moves. In fact, both truss rods are in the neutral position. This one is a dual truss rod, by the way, and the neck is super straight with super low action. This one I need to set up again, because it's been a year since I built it. I haven't done anything to it. And I think I'm going to touch up the setup. But it's so easy to play, so light to the touch. you know, this thing is 13 pounds, I think 13.5 or something like that. So it's pretty heavy, but it's really light to the touch. And the 2 truss rods are they're just in the neutral position. They're not pushing the neck up or down. They're not doing anything. They're just there. In case I need it, I can tweak it. But the back of this neck is flat. It's like a block. It's like a square. I don't know if you can see it. See? There you go. Completely flat. So one of the advantages that I was talking about is that it's super stable because there's so much more meat on the back of the neck. Now this doesn't mean that it has to be super thick like an upright bass. It could be the normal size, except it's not round. What this does, I don't know if I could show, but what it does is that it puts the thumb, think of it that way, but the whole thumb is covered in wood. It's not like a round thing where your thumb is not. It feels a little more stable for some reason. It's hard to describe. And you know, the first couple of guys that I was trying to convince about this method, they tried my personal guitar and they were like, oh man, I can't even tell the difference. It feels better, but it's just so marginal as far as any type of adjustment, and it just feels like you're on the neck. So yeah, that's one of the things that I do. I also do regular profiles. I've done like a teardrop, you name it. But my main thing is I tell people, try this neck profile, see what you think. It's also based on the size and shape of your hand. And if you don't like it, we can round it off, you know. So yeah, that's an interesting thing about this particular bass. It's true, there's more wood, there's more weight. I have, for this particular bass, where is it? I don't know where I left it, but I have this really thick leather strap, and yeah, it's manageable. I've done a 2-hour show with this bass, and it was actually heavier back then because I had to recarve the heel. I had a different shape here, and I didn't like it, so I removed wood like from here to all that. That whole block was gone. Yeah, there's several things that I did to it. These knobs, I like, you know, these candy colors. I've always been attracted to those kinds of colors. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll play a little bit. I'll plug it into the Kemper back there, and so you guys can hear it. But there's a bunch of audio clips. Like I said, I've been doing that 60-second concert thing for I don't know, like 10 weeks or something like that. What else? One thing about this channel, I'm trying to avoid any type of editing. Right now, I'm actually a recording engineer, and I have a bunch of gear, and I could set up I have a Mo 2 interface back there, and I have really nice mics. I'm trying to avoid all that. I'm speaking right into the iPhone. No lighting, just whatever lighting I'm getting from up there. I don't want to be this type of video or channel where everything's super edited and, you know, the playing is like super precise. None of that. When I do the 1-minute concerts, I do one take all the way through. A lot of times it's improvised, and that's it. It is what it is. It's the way I play. I'm sick of all of these channels that, like, they'll slap the string and then you see the oscillation of the string in slow motion and different angles. What that means is that they played the part, they recorded the part, how many takes they did, 20, 30, 100, I don't know, and then they edited the hell out of it, corrected the time, made sure everything was perfectly placed within the grid, and then they just kind of lip synced over it, you know, to look cool for the camera. I have no interest in that. I'm totally against it. I'm against all these channels that have 2-3 million subscribers. I'm here to change that for those who care to listen. I'm also not interested in 300 trillion views, or, you know, but I'm really receptive and really thankful for those who listen to me. I started doing this whole 60-second concert as part of my therapy. I had a really bad motorcycle accident. I broke my shoulder, and I didn't think I was going to be able to play to the level that I wanted to be at, or at least how I used to play. But it's getting better. There's a few videos in there. If you go to the channel and look at some of those shorts, there's a couple where my playing is okay. It's starting to get a little bit tighter. So yeah, as part of my therapy, that's why I'm doing this video. And I could sit there. In fact, before I was working with a couple of production companies, and we shot a few videos, and they're super cool. They look super cool. The bass sounds incredible. Every note is perfect. But it took me like a few takes to make it. And plus, you know, there was editing in there, and then different camera angles and lighting, and I felt it didn't feel right. I was posing for the camera. I'm not interested in that. I just want organic playing, and if there's mistakes in the playing, it is what it is. I'm trying to do the best I can. I practice every day, and it'll get better with time, but I'm not gonna sit here and edit anything. The only editing I'm gonna have to do right now is when I show you the audio samples, I'm gonna have to put these two videos together somehow. And I go into the from the bass into the Kemper back there, and then the out from the Kemper to an irig, which is like a super cheap interface for the iPhone, and that's it. I'll try to get the sound as good as I possibly can so you guys can hear it. There's probably going to be better examples of how this bass sounds if you go to my channel and you look at the shorts. This video is too long. It's about half an hour long. Again, I don't want to bore anybody with this kind of stuff. Oh, by the way, it's a Bartolini preamp. Excuse me, 5.1 or whatever it's called, and it's cool. I like it. Push pull to bypass the EQ. Shallow bridge. Bridge wasn't wide enough, or not as wide as I wanted it, but this is a very cool bridge. It still worked. Yeah, really like it. Oh, before I forget, these are some of my favorite tuners, the hip shot, the tuners. Oh, yeah, let's talk about the back of the neck, the volute. That's a really thick volute. I dig it. I could thin it out if somebody wanted one with this kind of volute. I can thin it out. Yeah, that's about it. I'll try to keep it short on the audio samples there. These strings they're a few months old, but they're still okay. All right, let's hear how this thing sounds.